Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is an awesome day for many of us. I think everyone who is here is one way or the other related to Israel and the Jewish people. I think there are many, many lovers of the Jewish people here in this audience. And among those of us who love the Jewish people, I think there is a special group, the righteous of the nations, that is very, very special to all of us. Some of you may not know this. There are two, to my knowledge, there's only two Asians that really have done more than anyone else in saving the Jews during the Second World War. One is the father of our guest of honor here today, Mr. Sugihara. The other is a government official of the then Chinese embassy in Austria, in Vienna, Mr. He Fengshan, and who only died a few years ago. And we were trying to get his daughter, right, Alice, to come to Hong Kong, but so far we have not succeeded. But I'm greatly honored. I think all of you will all share my sentiment that we are able to have the son, the youngest son of Mr. Sugihara here with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Nobuki Sugihara. I don't think I need any introduction. I prefer to just delve right into the subject of today. I want to make sure that the real story is able to come out concerning Mr. Chiune Sugihara. 3 years ago, my family and I went to Lithuania, and we went to Kaunas, where the concentration camp is for many of the Jews. And there was an exhibition there in which your father, the senior Mr. Sugihara, was prominently displayed in photograph and in writing. I was deeply touched. It is truly an act of greatness that I think will have eternal value. So with that, can I turn now to our guest of honor and ask you a couple of simple questions first. What is your father like? His personality, I'm trying to figure out what make him risk his life and that of his family. He was born 1900, January 1st, and he died in 1986 at the age of 86. So he was 40 when he saved 2,000 or more Jews. So I want to know about the person. Can you tell us something about your father? This Sugihara is the same age as me, 1949. So just to put something in perspective.
Well, of course, he's my father, my papa, and a very warm person. But when you meet him, he's very quiet. He doesn't talk. After first meeting, when you start knowing him, you can realize that he's very warm-hearted, and he tells everything directly, not so much like Japanese, hesitating. He doesn't hesitate anything. He just tells what he thinks, and he took care of family, myself, my brothers, my mother. This was the most important thing for him. And otherwise, he's like father, very human.
So if I don't know him, I meet him on the street, I probably would not be able to think that he has done such a great act of courage. Am I correct?
You are correct, yes.
Just ordinary folks, so to speak. It's just the heart that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Now, you told me about, by the way, we're delighted to have Mrs. Sugihara there. Essen, wonderful to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Sugihara. You just told me earlier today about some new discovery about what your father did even before. Most people know him since 1940, issuing all the visas. Mm-hmm. Before that, you discovered something just recently. Tell us.
Just a few weeks before he started issuing visa, he negotiated Soviet authority in Lithuania that he's going to issue a few hundred visas to Jewish refugees. And he told Russian authority to permit him to issue visa to exit Lithuania. I mean, he was going to issue transit visa for Japan in order to get exit visa from Lithuania. But for this, they needed Russian permission. So he negotiated Soviet Union to permit Jewish refugees to travel from Lithuania to Moscow and Moscow to Vladivostok, which is in Siberia, without problem. And on 25th of July, 10 head of state, Stalin, Beira, Molotov, they all signed this agreement to permit my father to issue visa. That's why he started issuing 100 visa a day from 27th of July. This is what we found out 3 months ago. It was new discovery.
How long did he continue issuing visas? From July all the way until?
Until the 2nd of September.
2nd of September.
Yeah.
So about 2.5 months.
1.5 months.
1.5 months.
Yeah.
And so those refugees went all the way by train to Vladivostok,
yes,
through Moscow.
Right.
And then went to Japan.
Yeah.
And then what happened to those people?
When they arrived in Japan, there was some Jewish group who was helping refugees because the refugees didn't have money. They gave loan to refugees, $100, $500 to travel farther from Japan. They had only transit visa for maximum 2 months, and they had to live in Japan. They had to spend some money. So some went to United States, Australia, Israel directly from port of Kobe or Yokohama, but some couldn't find a relative or friends who would help them to receive. Then these people moved to Shanghai, which was still under Japanese occupation and a free port. And they could move to Shanghai. There was also a Jewish community. They could survive another several months or some years, and they found at least other countries to settle.
So the timing seems very interesting because as Mr. Sugihara and I were talking, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on 1941.
End of 1941.
End of December.
Yeah.
And so that gave about a year, perhaps less than a year of window where those Jewish people that ended up in Japan can then find places to go. If your father's act of courage had taken place a year later, even if it works, those people may not be able to pass through Russia and ended up in Japan. Russia would probably not agree.
Right.
How did you find out about this latest discovery 2 months ago?
2 months ago, we had some contact in Moscow. It was a Jewish professor. He was researching the history and archive in Russia, and he found out.
Now, I understand your father speaks beautiful Russian.
Beautiful, I don't know, but better than the Russian people.
Right. Well, that's why my word beautiful, because it's better than the Russian people. I go to Russia a lot. I'm there 4 or 5 times a year. And Russian is a lovely language.
Very rich.
Very rich. Yeah. Very complicated. Not like Cantonese, sorry, or Japanese, which I don't consider those to be particularly beautiful languages. So tell me a little bit about, before he got to Lithuania, he was in Russia.
As a student, he received scholarship to study Russian language in Harbin in China. In Harbin, there were many Russian immigrants. Those were white Russians. So there was a Russian community. It was a good chance to learn Russian. And he studied for 3 years in Russian school, Russian language school managed by Japan. And then afterwards, he came into Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Manchuria, and he worked there for more than 15 years.
And when did he go to Lithuania?
He quit. he quit Harbin, his position. He didn't like some behavior of Japanese officers and military in Manchuria, so he quit and he went back to Tokyo. And
What year was that?
1933.
Early.
Yeah,
He was 33-year-old.
33 years old. Yeah.
He was already a man of moral strength, perhaps.
Yeah, if he believes in his idea, you cannot change him. He just goes straight. But then he was appointed as a diplomat to work in Moscow, Japanese embassy in Moscow. He moved to Helsinki in Finland to wait for a permit to enter Soviet Union. But they remember my father was very strong negotiator, and Russian lost a lot of money by negotiation of my father to purchase North Manchuria Railway. So they refused my father to go into Soviet Union.
Because they don't like him personally.
No,
he was
he
a
didn't
tough
like-
negotiator.
Yes.
A soft heart, but a tough negotiator.
Yeah. And he was sent to Lithuania to gather information about German movement, if Germans are really going to Soviet Union or not. That was 1 year he stayed in Lithuania. It was very short.
And that was on behalf of the Japanese?
Yes, Japanese.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Japan was allied with Germany at the
With
time.
the German, but Japan didn't trust German if they are really going to Soviet. So it was my father's job to gather information.
So he was there 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
That was 40?
1939 till 1940.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think made him do what he did in July to September of 1940?
Oh.
It's dangerous. Your older brothers
it's
were born
dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous, but he was traveling a lot to Berlin to give information to the embassy of Japan in Berlin to General Oshima. He passed Poland and he found out what was happening to Jewish people. So I think he was starting to think if Jewish people come to escape, it will be Lithuania next. Somehow, I believe he was prepared.
Did he ever talk to you about his experience?
Actually, not. He
Most
never
of those
spoke.
people don't. You know, like Mr. Ho Fung Shan, the Chinese guy, I don't think that for a long, long time he talked about that to anybody, including his family.
Yeah.
So your father, the same thing. Why do you think it's the case? It's no longer dangerous.
Somehow, it was bitter memory that he had to leave his job. After the war, he was dismissed. Actually, he was requested by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to give resignation because of that. They say because of that, what means because you didn't obey the instruction from the ministry. They gave conditions to my father. You may issue visa, transit visa to refugees only for those who have enough pocket money, enough cash, like $5,000, $7,000, to travel to Japan and stay, and also guarantor in Japan. But the refugees who have money, who had a cash, or who had a family in Japan, so it's impossible conditions they gave. It means you cannot issue visa, but he disregarded the instruction.
Is there anything in your father's history that may indicate why this great act of courage and humanity? For example, there's a lot of Christians in this room, and the Christians have a lot of affinity for the Jewish people, and I assume your father was not.
My father was not Christian, not even Buddhist.
He's not.
Well, he used to say, there is a God. It's for everybody, it's the same God. Christian, Jewish, Buddhist. There is one God, just above you, you believe, but you don't have to care about religion. Religion is like translator. So he believed in something, but he was not religious at all.
So it's not out of fear of God above whoever he is that he had this act.
I think he felt he was protected by God. God means for him it's love, human love.
But the rest of his life was pretty tough.
After the war, he came back 2 years later, and since he lost his position in the ministry, it was rough. He didn't have good job for many years, and finally, when he was 60 years old, he got a job in Moscow because his language was still very good, and he worked as representative of a Japanese trading company, and he, of course, loved the culture in Russia. So I think that time he was happy.
When he was in Russia.
Yes.
What year would that be? When did he go?
1960 to 1977.
So did you live in Russia?
No, we had to stay in Japan. They didn't accept any family to come to Russia.
How often did he come back to see you all?
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah, a few weeks every year.
And your mother was with her or with him or with you?
Even my mother had to stay in Japan.
That's tough. So your mother took care of you and your three other brothers. You have one that died.
Yeah, so 2 other brothers.
Two other brothers. Yeah. Okay. No sisters.
No sisters.
Your older brothers are no longer.
No one is alive.
You're the only Sugihara left. And his mother, by the way, passed away in 2008.
Yeah.
Right. Was she just a housewife?
Yes, she was a housewife, but she used to write tanka. Tanka is the Japanese poem. She was a kind of dreamer. She enjoyed life, even in the worst condition after my brother died and difficult life they had economically. But she was happy always.
You care to say a word about the time before your father went to Russia? What did he do?
He worked in several offices. One was Japanese Broadcasting Corporation. He spoke in news throughout Russia in Russian language, and he taught Russian language to some students in a Russian church. He changed several times job.
He has his own business for a while.
Not own business, but he was very beginning. He had a small shop to sell valves. After the war, valve didn't last more than 1 week, so he thought it's a good idea to sell valves to the farmers. But he was not successful in this business.
So you grew up sort of below average, economically speaking, kid.
In the beginning, yes.
But
maybe it was for everybody in Japan after the war. We didn't have food, and everybody had a difficult life. Yeah.
Do you think your father regretted what he did?
I don't think so. I don't think he regretted, but he had a bitter feeling when he had to leave the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Did he write down his experience?
He wrote down. I have a book here which I want to give you.
It's a
memoir he wrote by himself.
Honor to receive it.
But he never wrote that he regretted.
So he would have done it again if given the circumstance.
I think so.
How does the family see the father?
We didn't hear. I was small. I was born and I was small. My parents didn't talk about it. And I just knew that my father was a diplomat once. So what is diplomat? I didn't understand. They were traveling in Europe. They had a good life. But they never told me about this case that my father issued visa to 1,000 people. First time I heard was in 1968. one Israeli diplomat came to Tokyo, to the embassy, and he called my father to come over to see him, and he took myself, and we went to the embassy. And he was the child of survivors, and he showed his parents' passport with the signature of my father. Since then, I started knowing the story very slowly. I got also scholarship from Israel after this, and I studied in Jerusalem. And 5-10 years later, I met quite many survivors, 20, 30 people in Jerusalem. There was a tree planting ceremony, and 20 or 30 survivors came for the ceremony. Then I heard more stories from their mouths, how it was in Lithuania, how they passed whole journey through Japan. Then I started realizing what my father did.
So did they know that that was your father? They knew that it was your father?
That time, yes.
Yeah.
They invited survivors somehow.
Do you mind if we turn the story to yourself a little bit, just a little?
Okay.
Your history, obviously, is very much affected by your father's act of courage. And that's, you mentioned you went to Hebrew University and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about that period?
Yeah, so since I could receive a scholarship to study in Hebrew University, I stayed in university for 2.5 years, and after that, I met a Japanese diamond buyer, came to Israel, so I translated his conversation and negotiation, and I started liking the business, because this business is very Jewish business. You don't have to make any written contract or agreement. If you have deal done, just shake hand and a word, and you pay, and they deliver diamonds. Nobody changes money, nobody changes stone. So I asked this company to give me some teaching of assortment of diamonds, and I even went to a diamond factory to learn cutting diamonds. And like this, I remained in Israel for 15 years. I worked in diamonds as a salesman, going to Japan every month. And after 15 years, I decided to be independent. But to be independent, it means to open a company. Israel means I will steal my ex-company's clients. So I moved to Antwerp in Belgium, which is also a center in diamonds. And I established a company, diamond company in Antwerp.
Is that where you met your wife? She's half Belgium.
Yes, she's half Belgian.
So it's a great place to go, right?
Yes.
You make the right decision, Mr. Sugihara.
Right.
But you said you only were in Hebrew University for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
What degree did you get?
I didn't finish.
You didn't finish.
Drop out.
You just threw it away.
Yeah.
Oh, so you had to study Hebrew.
Yes, I had to study Hebrew. When I went to Israel, I couldn't speak English. So everybody goes to Ulpan. Ulpan is a Hebrew language school. That time, after the Six-Day War, many immigrants came to Israel, and all over the country there was a language school. You enter the school, first thing, they just shout on you. You don't understand. After 1 week, you understand few words. After 2 weeks, you start reading newspaper. This is the way they teach, very advanced system. So I went to Hebrew Ulpan in town for 1 month, and then there is another Ulpan for students. It's more advanced. Then you learn about 2 months, day and night, and you are ready for lectures.
I'm happy to tell you that in the audience here today, as I'm looking out, there's quite a few of them have been supporting similar programs in Israel. Mm-hmm. The Aliyah program. I know one of you. I know that you don't want me to mention a name, but anyway, supported the Ethiopian Jews that went back to Israel, and I think that couple became a serious supporter of the Jews who went back from Ethiopia and integrated into the country. They probably have been shouted at as well about the Hebrew, but it's okay. I'm sure that they would do okay. But anyway, let me ask you another thing. In Japan, your father's story is perhaps not that well known, and in fact, perhaps there was some misunderstanding. Is that the case? And if yes, why? And what can we do to correct that?
Well, first my mother published a book about their life, issuing visa and so on, but it was from my father's memoir, and she took a ghostwriter to write a story, so not everything was correct. Then everybody repeats copying this story and changing somewhere. At the end, after 20, 25 years, the story is completely in wrong direction. Even the film was made last year in Japan. In Japan, it was hit because actor was very famous, actress was well known internationally. In Japan, it was okay. The story was hit. The film was hit. But fact, it was not a real story. It was fiction. And so people know about my father now, but the real story they don't know. So I'm trying to correct and keep the right history, which was written on document and the paper, not talked by somebody, and children play like telephone. You give message, and at the end it's something else. So I'm working on this.
Would you write another book? Would you write another book? Because so many facts have come out since the time of your father's memoir.
I wouldn't write by myself, but with a group. We are organizing group of historians and professors and some diplomats together to keep the fact and the real archive. So we will publish something.
Let me ask you a different question now. How did Israel, the Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum, how did it begin to recognize your father? Because your father was not recognized until quite late.
I think they had to investigate a lot if he really risked his life or not. And I think they found that he risked his life. If Germans would find what he did, you never know what happened to him, or some Soviets. It can be even that he got permission to issue visa. He was in a camp after the war was ended in Europe. It was 1945, and my family was imprisoned for 2 years by Russians. Russians wanted to keep him because he has a lot of knowledge also in Russian and Japanese, but he could succeed to be released by Russians.
You know, tomorrow night I'll be with a gentleman who some of you know, Marcus Wallenberg. As we all know, his granduncle, Raoul Wallenberg, also saved a lot of Jews, but his ending was not half as good as your father's. He disappeared into the gulags, into the Siberia, and no one know eventually what happened to him. Most likely he just died somewhere, totally unknown. So I want to leave a lot of time for a lot. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. Well, maybe I will withhold my next question. Why don't I just open it to all of you? Yes, the Consul General from Holland. By the way, welcome. Great to have you in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a great city. We deserve great people like you.
Thank you very much. My name is Annemieke Ruigrok. Indeed, I'm the Consul General of the Netherlands. I arrived here 1 month ago, so I know everything already. Mr. Sugihara, I had the chance to shake your hands before lunch and tell you how honored I am to meet with you. In a previous life, I was the ambassador of the Netherlands to Lithuania. I was there from 2005 till 2009. And I visited the beautiful Sugihara house in Kaunas a number of times. Actually, I had a chance to help organize a state visit of then Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. And she also visited the Sugihara house during her state visit in 2008. There are very close ties between the royal family of the Netherlands and the imperial family of Japan. So she wanted to pay tribute to the deeds that your father did, and also pay tribute to a kind of a unique collaboration between Japan and the Netherlands that took place at that time, because it so happened that your father worked together with the Dutch honorary consul in those days in Kaunas, Mr. Jan Zwartendijk, who was director of Philips, and who was not, he had another job than your father, but he, as honorary consul, issued visa to the Jewish refugees to go to Curaçao, which was a part of the Netherlands in the Caribbean. He had no authority to do so, but nobody knew. So he issued the visa, sent it over to your father, and then he sent the transit visa to. He issued the transit visa through Russia to Japan, and they never met. They didn't know each other, but I think it's always such a great thing to know that both a Western factory director and a Japanese diplomat, in a way, shared the same human values. And I am very pleased and very honored that I can meet his son today. Thank you very much for your story.
Thank you.
Is that gentleman, that Dutch gentleman, still alive, or his son is still alive? So is it possible to arrange a meeting today, if both sides consent, of course, to have a meeting, if not at the parents' level, at the son's level? Right, Edward was just...
I think I met him once in Amsterdam, right? Yeah. There was some event.
Before, with the next question, I want to later, please make sure my colleagues, Black and so forth, later show all those photos again. Perhaps Mr. Sugihara may like to comment on some of those photographs, because when I look at it, I'm not sure if I know who is who. I know your father's, how he looks like. But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't you think that he looks like his father? When I met him, I said, I wasn't expecting this. I meet your father. I meet Mr. Chiune Sugihara. Looks just like his father, right? So later, let's make sure that we play all those photographs again, and then to the extent that Sugihara-san would like to comment, we'll invite him to comment. Okay? Any other questions? Christine?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sugihara. It's a pleasure to meet you. I was wondering, of the people who were given the transit visas out of Lithuania, do you have any idea, does anyone have any idea where they went after they went to Japan?
They went to several countries. Many of them went to United States of America, and some went to Australia. Many of them also went to South Africa all the way down, and small part could go to Palestine, which was Israel. And, they went to all over the place. But there was a Jewish religious school in Poland who came to Lithuania. It's about 500 students, and they could save this school. It's very important for Jewish world. It's called Mir. School Mir, Yeshiva Mir, and they went to United States. They established a Mir school in Brooklyn, and another one went to Jerusalem, and it's the biggest school of Jewish religion, and it's very important for Israel. And now, I don't know how many of survivors or children of survivors are there. In New York, we visited this school. They say 500,000 descendants from the saved refugees. And in Jerusalem, we visited 2 months ago, they say like 250,000. So somewhere between 250 to 500,000 survivors' family are living right now, but they are growing.
Professor David Zweit?
Thank you very much for your moving. I mean, I think many of us were probably brought close to tears. One thing you said that struck me as very interesting was that your father in 1933 in Manchuria had already quit because of the activities of the Japanese military. And we know that 1931 was the beginning of the invasion of Manchuria and the beginning of the Japanese occupation. So it sounds like your father was an incredibly moral man and a very... Because I'm trying to understand, and I ask some people, I mean, why did he do it? Not why did he risk himself, but internally, what was the motivation that said to him, so back in 1933, he already doesn't like what Japanese government is doing, and it was not doing very nice things. And then again, he's in a situation. So it seems that there was something deep inside him against cruelty, unfairness, injustice. Could you comment on that?
According to his writing, he said he couldn't stand the behavior of young officers in military. He didn't say he was against Japanese government, just the behavior of young 21, 23 years old officer ruling Manchuria. This was his opinion. He didn't criticize Japanese politics. Maybe he had in his mind, but he didn't say that. And more than that, I couldn't know. But he's a person always. He reads people's mind, what they think. So maybe something he felt about politics or military aggression. This I don't know.
Edith Terry?
Let me thank you as well for your incredibly moving story. My question is, given the recognition by so many governments, we have Israel and the Netherlands here, for your father's actions, and also given the passage of time in Japan and different attitudes towards what happened in World War II, has the Japanese government ever made any move to posthumously reinstate your father or to apologize for having treated him so shabbily?
In 1990, when Lithuania became independent from Soviet Union, there was some gesture from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a kind of apology, but I think it was more to establish diplomacy between Japan and Lithuania so that they could use my father's name as an opportunity. They made a plaque in gold that they respect what Chiune Sugihara did in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but actually it's in the storage room. Nobody can see.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for this wonderful testimony. I had a question about what happened during the war between 1940, after the departure of your father from Lithuania, and 1946, when he was no more taken in the foreign ministry. Was it attacked during the war, or what happened?
1940.
That's the Consul General of France, huh?
Yeah. September, he had to leave Lithuania. He headed to Berlin for a short time, and he and his family were sent to Prague in Czechoslovakia. He worked there for 6 months. After 6 months, by the way, in this 6 months, my father issued another 80 visa to Jewish refugees to go to Japan with the transit. And then he was sent to Königsberg, which is now Kaliningrad in Russia. That time was a very important navy port for Germans. All the ships, navy, were gathering in Kaliningrad or Königsberg, so he had to collect information. But German Nazis didn't like my father, and they put him as a persona non grata, and they threw him out from Königsberg. He was too eager to get important intelligence from this area because Germans were going to attack Soviet Union. After that, he was positioned in Bucharest in Romania until the end of the war came, and then he and his family were imprisoned by Soviet Union for 2 years outside Bucharest.
2 years.
2 years.
What was life like? Did he say anything?
Well, he was investigated every day. I think he had to say what he was done in the last 20 years and so. But he could manage to leave to Japan 2 years later.
Yes, sir.
My name is Mitya New. I run a business here in Hong Kong, consulting business. I'm struck very much by a story that is incredibly similar to the one of your father, which perhaps you've also heard of. A Swiss police official during the war in Switzerland was also issuing visas for Jews trying to escape Germany at that time. And he was dismissed by the Swiss police force for doing this because it was not in accordance with regulations. He was then dismissed without pension, and his family suffered great hardship. I was living in Switzerland about 15, 20 years ago, and I had the opportunity to meet his daughter. And his daughter described, because I was writing a book about Switzerland at the time, his daughter described the incredible hardship of rejection by Swiss society as a result of this experience of her father and the dismissal. And so my question to you was whether you experienced a similar rejection in Japanese society as a result of the experience or the actions of your father.
Myself not, because I don't know anything, but somehow my father didn't want to approach government or ministries. So he shut himself from that part of the world.
Okay. That too is quite characteristic, I think, that many of these great men, after the great act, basically voluntarily just fade into more or less oblivion, not causing attention to themselves. That is really another sign, perhaps, of another aspect of the greatness. Okay, any others? If not, while you're waiting, can we look at some of the photographs and you tell us who they are and so forth. By the way, why do you need an actor to act for your father? Your father is handsome enough. I wish that he can play himself. But anyway, is that okay? Some of these photographs, do you remember some of these? You were born after the war, so
yeah, I don't remember.
You were not here. This is your mother?
This is my mother and the eldest brother, and he was the third one who passed away when he was 7 years old. And the place must be Königsberg, according to the uniform they wear, children.
Your mother is quite a beautiful lady.
Of course.
Of course. Next.
Oh. Well, if my mother is in the center, it must be a Japanese consulate.
Oh, wait. Okay.
I think
that's your father. The second from the third from the right.
It must be Kaunas in Lithuania.
In Lithuania.
Some party of diplomats.
During the Second World War, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Your father smokes a cigar.
I think only gesture,
Just gesture.
To look.
There's nothing wrong with smoking a cigar. Anyway, okay, next one.
this is Germany. You see the Hitler Jugend. You see here the uniform,
The uniform.
of Nazi. So Königsberg.
Uh-huh. That's your father and mother. Next one.
Oh, I guess this was in Finland because the eldest brother was very small. So first place, Helsinki embassy he worked in.
So before Lithuania.
Before Lithuania, in 1938.
So who is your father is on the far left on the front row.
Yes.
And the second one?
I think he was the ambassador and the ambassador's wife.
And then
my mother.
Your mother.
And
Okay.
the rest.
Very good. Next one. Whoa.
This is a big party in Helsinki.
So it's Japan, right?
Yeah, Japan.
And Finland.
Is it the same in Chinese?
Yes, it is.
Finland?
Yeah, Japan and Finland probably, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Suomi?
Soon?
Suomi, is that how you say
Suomi.
it? In
Yeah.
Finnish? Next one. I have a Japanese friend whose wife's name, who's also Japanese, born in Finland. So his father called her Suomi. It sounds Japanese, but it actually means Finland. Okay. They live in Hong Kong.
I guess this is also Finland.
Okay, Finland. Next one.
This is Kaunas,
Kaunas.
I guess. Yeah.
Next one.
Here.
Your oldest brother?
Yeah, it's oldest brother, a baby. So
What year was
Finland.
he? What year was he born?
He was born in 1937.
37.
36.
36. Yeah. So by the time your father was signing those visas, he was already 4-year-old.
Yes. It's 3 years and 9 months.
Oh, okay. Next one. Who's that?
He must be German, helping issuing visa. Actually, he was a member of Nazi or Gestapo.
Oh.
After several years, he was shot in Germany by Gestapo.
Because he was helping.
I think. We don't know, but my father knew.
I see. He looks like a tough guy, but maybe he's a good guy.
But a good guy.
Good guy.
Even
Shot
Nazi,
by the Gestapo.
Nazi issuing a visa together with my father, stamping and making lists.
That's your brother, your two brothers.
Two brothers.
Next one.
These are the Jewish refugees came in the middle of July, still waiting and...
in Kaunas.
In Kaunas. I think my father was asking the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to permit. They were waiting for 1-2 weeks.
Next one. Who's that?
Yeah, this is the consulate building of Kaunas.
Oh.
They were living upstairs and the consulate office was downstairs.
Uh-huh. And your father was a consul general?
Yes, vice consul.
Vice consul. But his boss...
He's the boss, but Kaunas was not really capital of Lithuania. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Vilnius is, I suppose. And is this your mother?
Yeah, this is my mother.
Oh, okay. Next one.
These are two, so...
That's your father and mother?
Yes, my mother and my mother's sister to help my mother. I think it's Kaunas.
Kaunas, your father in the middle. How come he's a little bit chubbier at that time?
I think food was very good.
Food was very good. Okay. Next one.
He's quite fat, so maybe in Bucharest.
Okay, next one. Now that looks like a Nazi Gestapo or something.
This must be Königsberg, which is Kaliningrad, because the third brother is still a baby. After he was born in Kaunas, 1 year later, he was in Königsberg.
Königsberg, yeah. Okay, next one. Okay,
This
thank you very much.
same.
Well, any more questions before we go? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Brian Brenner. Just wanted to ask you a question about your children and your brother's children, and kind of a little bit of background about where your side is today.
Okay, my elder brothers, they had 2 children each, and 1, 2, 3, 3 are still alive in Japan. And myself, I have 4 daughters. And the last daughter is with my wife now and with us. So eldest daughter lives in Zurich in Switzerland, and second one in Salzburg in Austria. The third one in Antwerp, and the last one also with us in Antwerp.
Do they all speak Japanese?
They eat Japanese, but they don't speak Japanese.
They what?
They don't speak Japanese.
They don't speak Japanese. Yeah. Okay, right. And I would also like to, at the end, perhaps invite the Consul General from Israel, Sakakani, perhaps to say a few words. But let's give anyone a last chance if there's any other questions that you would like to ask.
My name is Carolyn Liu. Thank you very much for such a really interesting and emotional presentation. But I was just wondering about your mother. She seems like so, as you said, she was always cheery. Was she very supportive of your father? I mean, she also suffered some of the impact of his actions. I mean, how did she feel about that? Was she worried about the family? And a lot of personal concerns, of course, when you do something like that.
While issuing visa, my mother and the children, they were moved to a hotel in Kaunas city. So they didn't stay in the consulate. They didn't have that pressure from the refugees. But my mother, of course, supported my father bringing lunch or dinner to the consulate building. And somehow she's always happy. Even she's worried, she doesn't show. So she could manage. Of course, after the war, they came back to Japan. She used to complain why we have this and we don't have that. But after the war, everybody had very hard life. They could understand.
And I understand that you always ride in a bicycle that is one size smaller than what it should be when you were growing up.
Yeah, I asked my father, can you buy me a bicycle? He said, if your class, half of your class has bicycle, okay, I buy you. He went to buy a bicycle, he came back. I said, this is one size smaller and it's for girls, it's not for boys. But he said, yeah, I promised at least to buy a bicycle, and which was much cheaper.
Okay, no more questions? Your last chance. May I now invite the Consul General from Israel, Saki Kani, to come up and say a few words? And we're also delighted to have the Vice Consul from Japan being with us here as well. Saki?
Just really, please sit down. Just, we as Jews, we like to complain a lot. Anyone who read the Bible know that even God complained about the Jews to be stiff-necked and like to complain a lot. And really, very quick after we gained independence in the state of Israel in 1948, we took upon ourselves to establish a museum of the Holocaust. And the most important thing was to document everything. We understood it's very, very important to get everything documented for later generations. The other side was, of course, to recognize those who were risking their lives to risk and to help Jews during those horrible, dark days of the Holocaust. And it took a lot of research and a lot of time because we figured that first and foremost, it's important to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Jewish people and on behalf of the State of Israel to those individuals who risked their life to save Jews during those days. And this is why it took a long time. We still recognize individuals who save life. Even these days, all around the world, the evidences sometimes comes, decades later. People who risk their life stay in the places, wherever it would be, in the Soviet Union, for instance, didn't say a word. And it's only sometimes second generation or grandchildren who actually heard the stories and come and tell us what happened. So for me also, part of my family perished in the Holocaust in Poland. It's really an honor, and we had the pleasure to host Sugihara Cup yesterday evening at our home, and really to thank the family that really made a difference. And it really takes a tremendous courage to do this couple of things. Seems simple. You say just stamping visa, but it's not stamping visa. It's really taking a risk and saving thousands of lives. So again, thank you very much.
Don't leave. Can I invite the Consul General on behalf of the Asian Society, and indeed all of us, present a memento to our guest of honor, Mr. Sugihara.
Thank you very much.
Great to have. It's a great honor to have you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to talk to Mr. Sugihara, and if you still have time, perhaps you can come up and greet him. I think it will be our great honor to have the opportunity. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.